Today we're going to make the puttanesca. We got some chopped up garlic, some chopped up Kalamata olives, some capers, some anchovies, the tomato concasse, and some fresh basil. We should actually be using fresh oregano, but I have basil, so we're going to do that. We got our pan heating up. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of pure olive oil. Never extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is not for cooking. It's for flavoring. We'll start with our garlic. We want to saute the garlic till it just starts to turn just a golden brown. The liquid from the tomatoes will stop it from cooking. It's happening quite fast. We're actually already there with some of these pieces of garlic. Oh, it smells delicious. Doesn't take very long. It's a fine line. It starts to get a little bit sticky once it starts turning brown too. It's a fine line between nutty brown flavor and burnt black flavor, so be careful. I think we're at the point now where we need to toss in these tomatoes or it's going to get burnt. Now this tomato concasse is going to release a whole lot of water, so we're going to need to cook this down for a while. And while we do that, we might as well throw in the olives and the capers. And since I don't have fresh oregano, I'm going to go ahead and toss in some dried oregano right now with this as well. And here go the capers. It's maybe a little less than a quarter cup. I'm also going to throw in 5 or 6 chopped anchovies. We'll give it a good stir. I'm going to throw in just about a tablespoon of this dried oregano. I'm also going to throw in about a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. So while we're waiting for this to cook down, I'll give you a little bit of history lesson about puttanesca sauce. Puttanesca loosely translates to in the style of the whore, and it originated in, some people say, in Naples, Italy, which is appropriate for me because I'm from Naples, Florida. Anyway, there's 2 or 3 different stories about how or why this sauce came about. Some say that they used it to lure men into their shops because it tasted and smelled so good. So another story says that the whores ate it themselves because it was so quick and easy to make that they could get back to their paramours. You'll notice that I haven't put any salt in this yet. The reason for that being is the olives and the capers are both salty, so I will salt it at the end if it needs it. It may not. There may be enough salt in those olives and capers to where it may not need any more salt. So once I'm done cooking the sauce down, all the tomatoes are nice and broken up and it's nice and thick, I'll taste it, and at that time I will season it with salt if it needs it and some fresh cracked black pepper. You'll also notice that I didn't really measure anything. Cooking is all about proportions. So as we say a lot of the times in this particular recipe, I'd probably say that it's maybe 3 parts tomatoes, 1 part or maybe half a part olives, maybe a 1/4 of a part capers. That's just sort of how my eye works. I've been cooking for so long, I can just tell by looking the proportions that I need for each ingredient. It's probably going to be frustrating for some people, but it's very difficult to tell people how to cook with exact measurements. Julia Child is probably rolling over in her grave right now because that's sort of what she based her career upon. But that's just not how I like to cook. I like to do it by eye, by taste, by smell. I listen to these. I mean, you can hear it, obviously, the bubbles. I like to use all of my senses, and that's just the way I like to do things. Especially with salt and pepper. You have to do it to taste. It depends on how much tomatoes you have, how far you let it cook down, how much olives, how much capers you put in there. You really just have to practice and learn how to do it by taste and use your senses, use them all. So this sauce is probably about as cooked down as it needs to be. A good way to tell is if you take your spatula and drag it down, you see how a bunch of water doesn't come in and fill up that hole I just made, which means there's not a whole lot in there. So it's nice and thick. At this point, I'm going to taste it, season it. I'm going to throw in some of that chopped up fresh basil and call it a day. There's the basil that I threw in there. I just wanted to show you how much it was. Not a whole lot, maybe 5-6 leaves chopped up really fine. So I went and got about the nicest piece of tuna you can expect from a grocery store. You can see there, $30.45 per pound. Insanity. Better be good. It looks pretty good. We'll open it up. Here's the piece of tuna. The reason I bought this piece is it looks like it's still got a piece of the sushi block. So what I'm going to do is just hit this with a tiny bit of salt and pepper and then roll it around in some dried Italian seasoning. And then I'm going to sear it. Okay, here we go with the tuna. This is going to happen very quickly. Okay, here we go with the tuna. This is going to happen very quickly. That pan is really hot. That oil is hot. Here we go. That pan actually could probably be just a smidge hotter. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds on every side. Just a few seconds on each side. And that's it. With a piece of tuna this beautiful, this expensive, you're doing it a disservice by cooking it any more than that. Here's the finished dish. You can see how beautifully rare that tuna is. And as I always preach, the pasta is more of a side dish in the pasta dish than the main attraction. The sauce and the tuna take the show. It's going to be absolutely delicious, I guarantee. Thank you for watching. Toss me a share and a like if you like what you see. We'll see you next time.